Hey guys, what's up? So yesterday in the Facebook post, I mentioned how CrossFit can be proven by science, but that's not why we do this. And I wanted to speak to that a little bit. Maybe later on this week or something, I'll make a video explaining how it's proven by science, but that's kind of what the level 1 is, and it's a 2-day ordeal, but I can maybe try to briefly explain pieces of it in a short video. But for the time being, I'm going to explain why we don't really care that it's backed by science and why that doesn't hold any weight with me, with CrossFit purists, with anything like that. So this story is a story that's told by a man named Greg Glassman. Greg Glassman is the founder and creator of CrossFit, if you're unfamiliar with him. Well, the story goes something like this, and it's anecdotal, but it speaks to CrossFit. So he says, let's pretend that there's a football team. And I'm going to tell this to the best of my memory, by the way. I don't have this story memorized. I just heard it once and it stuck with me. Okay. Let's say that there's a football team out there and they haven't lost a game in 10 years. Their team is every single year the strongest, fastest, most well-conditioned team that there is. There's nobody like them out there. But their coach is using some unorthodox methods, something that he kind of came up with on his own. Well, a scientist one day walks up to this team during their practice and is watching them go. And like I said, this coach is using unorthodox methods. The scientist says, hey, coach, you can't do it this way. You can't practice with this team this way because this isn't how everyone does this. There's nothing that says this is how this works. Every other team is using this method because it's been proven. Well, the coach says, well, actually, scientist, I'm having pretty good results with what I'm doing. The scientist says, no, you can't do this. Well, let's fast forward 10 more years. So now we're 20 years in. This team hasn't lost a game in 20 years, right? They are still the most well-conditioned, fastest, strongest team around. Well, 20 years later, so we're at the 20-year mark, the scientist walks back up to the coach at practice. And the scientist says, hey, coach, good news. He's waving some papers in his hands. Good news, coach. I've proven that your method works. I can prove it. I got the science right here. And the coach says, yeah, thanks for the sheet of paper and all, but I don't need it. I know this works. Thanks. That's really nice of you, but I've been saying it for the past 20 years. I know that this works. And that's where CrossFit is at. That's where CrossFit was at years ago. So CrossFit is now about 20 years in. We don't know what the long-term effects of this is. So I'm currently 28 years old. I could potentially, let's say 30 years from now when I'm 58, I could potentially drop dead one day after a workout because I used up all of my energy that my body has. I finally hit my threshold for what the human body is capable of, and now I drop dead. Now, it's not looking like that's what's going to happen. It's looking like I'm going to be able to do this for the rest of my life, for the next 60, 70 years. That's what it's looking like. But we don't have the science to prove that yet, just because this is such a new thing. And for that reason, I don't really care what the science says. I don't care of what the textbooks say, NASM says, exercise science. It's all useless to me. It doesn't mean anything. I'm going off of what I see work every single day. So hopefully that makes sense. Later on this week, maybe I'll prove to you guys, or I'll explain how CrossFit is proven and how it does work. But for the time being, yeah, take this for what it's worth. See ya.